Before we get started, I want to remind you that if this quarantine is exacerbating issues in your relationship, or if you're solo and it's creating issues of touch hunger for you, I'm here to listen. And we're also beginning to see some portions of our country and our world reopening, which creates a whole new set of stresses. So if you need somebody who can listen without judgment and who can help you to learn how to navigate and negotiate this new world that we're living in, I'm here to listen. Today you're going to meet David, who's polyamorous but lives in a house alone, meaning that he's been separated from all of his partners for quite a while. He's experienced this loss of touch as a real blow, but he has rediscovered a love of cooking, which is allowing him to indulge his senses in a new way. Let's get started.
I have a lot of relationships, but many of them have been long distance, and I was doing a lot of travel to be with them. And so now all of my relationships, even the ones that are in town, have become long distance relationships. I haven't been within arm's length of another human being in over 40 days.
Wow. So to clarify, you're polyamorous.
Yes.
So you have multiple partners.
Yes.
How are you handling this lack of touch? What is this doing for you as somebody who has a lot of partners? So I assume you, in general, get a lot of touch.
Yeah. No, it was a real hard blow. It came down so hard and so fast. All of we spent a couple of days debating about who we were going to continue seeing, and then things were changing so rapidly. I mean, literally hour by hour.
Yeah.
And then and it there was one of my sweeties who really, really wanted to keep having intimacy despite the quarantine, and another one and another one had much tighter controls. And for reasons of personal safety and also for equity, I decided that I was just going to isolate myself completely.
So, what is it doing to your emotional state to have such a lack of touch?
It's been it's been really hard, but weirdly, it was worst for the first couple of weeks, and then in the last 2 weeks or so, I've been coming around to this sort of numb acceptance that this is the way it's going to be. I mean, they say when you're starving to death, you reach a point that you no longer feel hungry, and when
Mm,
you're freezing to death, you reach a point that you no longer feel cold.
mhm.
And I think that's, I mean, my sex drive has just sort of gone largely dormant. When I was, I mean, last month, I was either having sex with somebody or at least having an orgasm virtually every day. And at this point, I can't recall when. It's been at least a week.
Mhm.
Um, that my sex drive has kind of recognized that the situation has changed and shut itself down for a bit. I mean, I can still work myself up. There are some interesting things happening. There are online sexy events, and I definitely am capable of being sexual.
Mhm.
But it requires an outside stimulus of some sort.
Mhm. How are you able to sort of fill some of your own touch needs?
Um, there was a time I guess be a couple of weeks ago now, when I was really, really feeling down. And I have a weighted blanket, which was a Christmas present from a sweetie of mine a couple of years ago. And I lay down on the carpet and I put the weighted blanket on top of myself, and that wasn't quite enough. So I took a folded up quilt and put it on my tummy and hugged it to myself. And under all of that, I was able to let go and just cry. And I cried myself to sleep right there on the floor.
Mm.
I have learned about myself that I can only really let go and cry in a circumstance where I feel safe enough to be vulnerable. The one thing that is always guaranteed to make me cry is if somebody asks me, and I can tell they really mean it and want to hear the answer, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And so that was one thing that I did. And I've been there have been a couple of online sexy events where we basically pleasure ourselves in front of the camera while watching other people pleasuring themselves, and that's really hot. I am an exhibitionist, so that's a thing that is really hot for me, but it's not the same as getting your touch needs met. I mean, one thing I know about touch is that you can't you can't tickle yourself,
Mm,
and you can't really touch yourself the way another person can, because it's not possible to surprise yourself.
mhm.
It can be pleasurable, but it's not at all the same thing as actually being intimate with another human being, or as you said, even a pet.
Yeah. So to shift the focus just a little bit, what is your relationship with food during this quarantine? Has it changed at all?
It's actually changed in a very positive way.
Oh.
Um, I I enjoy cooking. One of my, I say that my love language is acts of service, and one thing that I really, really enjoy doing for my sweeties is cooking them a nice dinner. And so I have been doing a lot of cooking. I haven't been baking the way a lot of people have, but I do, with so much time on my hands, I do take the time to fix myself a nice dinner. And I can make, you know, like a pan of lasagna or a casserole or something like that. And it takes a couple of hours, and it's a couple of hours of really focused flow. This is a
Mm,
time when I am focused on the needs of the task. It
mhm.
has its own schedule. It has its own requirements. It doesn't care. You know, when the saute is sauteing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care about your needs. It needs to be in that pan for 15 minutes, no more, no
Uh-huh.
less. And you have to, you know, you have to pay attention to it. And so all of these things mean that cooking puts me in a state of flow where I'm not worrying about everything else. And so that takes me out of myself for a couple of hours. And then at the end of it, I have a delicious thing that I can enjoy. You know, it's a sensory pleasure. And of course, there's the smells of the cooking, and even the cleanup is part of that flow state. So because I have been one of my, I won't exactly say bad habits, but one of the things that I generally do with all the travel that I like to do is I eat a lot of meals in restaurants, and it's really tough to eat healthy when you're
Mm,
eating out. So I have been eating so well. I've been cooking and eating, you know, low-fat dishes with vegetables, and I think I know that a lot of people are surviving on takeout and delivery. I have had, I think, literally one meal outside the house since this went down.
wow.
I was out shopping and stopped for a slice of pizza.
Uh-huh.
But apart from that, I've been going to my local grocery store about once a week, and bringing in lots of fresh vegetables and fresh meats and good things, and cooking up really good meals for myself. And that is one of
Yeah,
the things that I'm doing to help stay sane.
great. Well, David, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it with
You're
me.
welcome. I hope it's helpful to your listeners.
If this video has been helpful for you, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about how you're handling the quarantine. And if you're struggling with this lockdown, I want you to know that I'm here to listen. Go to the link on the screen to get information about my quarantine coaching special. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you again soon.